Brothers and sisters, once again, my longtime friend has organized this opportunity. So that gives me opportunity to exchange my own experience and also to learn some of your own experience. That's mainly through as a question and answer, like that. So seems to be very helpful to enrich somebody, enrich, I think, both sides. And then also, as you brought an occasion meeting with many long-time friend. As a human being, not like some other animal. Once we develop friendship, that friendship remains till our death. And from those philosophical university tradition who accept rebirth, then I think our relations, once we develop within this lifetime, that sort of influence of that relation may remain thousands sort of rebirth.
Times.
Perhaps when some of us become Buddha, then we recall, oh, such eons before we met such place, isn't it? It's very possible. So we have to compete each other. Who reach first there? Whether Guru reach first or those Chela. I think Guru, according to present circumstances, too busy. So from that viewpoint, I may remain behind. So today, I think good thing is the usual my sort of the root text, the Shantideva's book, left there, Dharamsala. Not with me. So just I hired one old book from someone. Yeah,
Borrowed.
Borrowed, like that. This is one commentary. Our last meeting, just after 2000 10th March crisis. Now 2 years passed. By the way, 2 years passed. Oh, one thing, my gallbladder now no longer here. So Guruji's body not complete. But okay, very healthy body. Okay. I'm just wondering, among the audience, those people who missing that same organ, I want to know. Anyone? Oh, one there. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Oh, they. So since that operation, when I give some public talk, India also in the West, so usually I is telling, among the audience, some people have some kind of belief Dalai Lama have some kind of miracle power. That's of course nonsense. And then some people used to believe Dalai Lama have some kind of healing power. Now that is, since my sort of surgery, now scientifically prove Dalai Lama have no healing power. So it is clear, isn't it? Like that. So there are some differences between previous our gathering and today, like that. So, why still we are talking about these some ideas which developed in this country, I think almost 3,000 years. And then particularly since Buddhism developed in this country more than 2,000, now around 600. And then Nagarjuna, and then particularly this Shantideva, many centuries ago they happened, or they came, and although as a human being they passed away, but they remained where? As Shavas, Shava.
They left a legacy.
Or they left some of their, they thought written on paper. I think palm tree. So these very, very ancient sort of teaching of India, but still relevant to this world. How? Not in form of ritual, but these are, I think, very, very, I think, useful to open our mind and to see the reality. I think many man-made problem actually is due to lack of fuller knowledge about the reality. So they inspired nobody want trouble, but ourselves created a lot of trouble. Not want, but because of lack of, because of ignorance. Ignorance here means lack of knowledge about the reality. So these texts still very useful to know the reality. 이제 미 보라스 때 술데. Oh, Rajiv, who is that person? Huh? Jain. Jain Ray.
No, Mr. Jain.
Mr. Jain, huh? What did Dr. Thompson do? Ninja. Shannon Kasa.
Ravindra Varma.
Ah.
Ravindra Varma.
Oh, Ravindra Burma. He reminds me our late friend Ravindra Burma. His physical. So I think firstly, I think the importance of calm mind. I think two things, because of two benefit from calm mind. Number one is a calm mind brings inner peace. That also very helpful to maintain a healthy body. And then calm mind, another calm mind, I think immense sort of helpful to function about our human intelligence, to investigate, to analyze the reality. Without calm mind, disturbed mind, then cannot see the reality properly. Because disturbed mind then often develop biased sort of view. And often, then you see things appears actually mental projection. One old scientist, his name is one American. I think his age, when I met him, his age already 84 something. You know? No, not that one. Another one. Whether he alive or not, I don't know. So some time ago, I think at least 5-6 years ago, he actually wrote a book. The title mentioned, "We Prisoner of Anger." Prison of anger. Something like that. So he, of course, not Buddhist, not religious-minded, I think. You see, he mentioned when we develop anger, and then the object which we develop anger, our anger focusing, you see, that appears very negative. But the 90% of that negativeness is actually mental projection. So similarly, too much attachment. Again, the positive sort of appearance from that object, again, I think a large portion, mental projection. So as soon as the mental projection involved, you can't see the reality. So calm mind, I think two things. The benefit from calm mind, two things. Person, himself, herself, with calm mind, much sort of peace, happier. And the physical body element also function normally. And then most important, that provides the proper functioning of our brain, and we can see the thing more objectively, like that. So now, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer, I think worthwhile make some effort to bring calm mind. Then our life, of course, some form of problem, some form of trouble, including one's own body's
imbalance,
creation, and body's creation, like old age or illness, and finally death is bound to happen. Then environment also, there are a lot of problems. So under such circumstances, if there is a way to keep calm mind, then worthwhile, make attempt. So now how to bring calm mind? I think we have to look the real sort of source of disturbances. One, extreme self-centered attitude.
No.
Self-grasping. That also is one source, create disturbances. More grasping, I. They say, more possibility, disturbances. Little loose way. That's too much of center, because of the grasping attitude. Less disturbances. Disturbances happen, but the response from your side much softer. So there, it seems faith, according to the theistic religion, is a belief creator, God. So, single-pointed sort of faith towards God, creator. So that means total submission, right? Total submission to the God. So that loosening, this extreme self-centered sort of grasping attitude. That's one way. Then Buddhist way of approach. Is, of course, like Jainism and Buddhism, and also one ancient Sankhya philosophy, one part of Sankhya philosophy. Hello? No concept of creator, but ultimately oneself consider creator, like that. So you should do, therefore, law of causality, law of karma. Everything depends on one's own action. Action here, physical action, verbal action, mental action. So due to one's own action, the different sort of result come. Pain, pleasure, neutral. So now here, Buddhism, the emphasis, concept of anattma. So that is the aiming, loosening the tight sort of, or grasping self, I. So all major tradition, you see, aiming, or I think recognize, openly or unopenly, indirectly, I think realize one source of the problem is self-grasping, strong I. So we utilize different sort of method to reduce that. Then another way, more sense of concern of others' also well-being. That also sort of very, very strong sort of method to reduce also the self-grasping. Self-grasping, not necessarily just feeling of I. I is there. But you see, the too much sort of the self-centered attitude, often you see bring an attitude regardless others' well-being. And then extreme way, in order to get some benefit to oneself, bully on other, harm on other, cheating other. So more compassionate attitude, respect others' right, respect others' desire. So more sort of sense of that kind, reduce the dangerous self-centered attitude. Clear? When we say selflessness, does not mean the denying existence of self. Self is there. But you see, and also you see, it is necessary to keep the sense of strong self. Is necessary. Sense of strong self is the basis of willpower, determination, self-confidence. Without that, life becomes difficult. And also, from the spiritual viewpoint, the spiritual progress also then difficult without a sense of strong self. Right? But we have to make distinction, right? Distinction, negative sort of sense of self and positive sense of self. So that's, I think, so these are different methods. So now, non-believer, and another word, I think, secular way. According Indian tradition, secularism does not mean rejection or disrespect of religion, but rather respect all religions and also respect non-believer. I think last year I had audience, Atwani. So we just did a casual talk, and then he mentioned the one sort of reason for success of democracy in this country is the 1,000 years in this country, respect different views is there. So he made one example, Charvaka. This is Charvaka, who's sort of, who's school of thought, right? School of thought. This is the nihilism, usually we call nihilist view, denying existence of next life, or denying any spirituality like that, or denying existence of God or these things. So, rest of the different school of thought consider that school of thought is nihilism.
Nihilist.
So, condemn or criticize. Yet, those people who hold that view refer rishi. Rishi
Sage.
Sage. So that means respect. So he mentioned that. So it is true. So those Charvaka in ancient time, even Buddha's time, they already there. So these are non-believer, ancient non-believer. So there should not be differences. Ancient non-believer and modern non-believer, same. So you see, the India's tradition respect those non-believer in ancient time. So why not today? We must respect non-believers. Then the non-believer also want peace of mind, isn't it? So, in order to keep calm mind, sometimes people use what called tranquilizer. Or some people is relying on drugs or relying on alcohol like that. And also, I think ordinary people, I think normal people, in order to keep a peace of mind, even those retired old people used to go to different places as a tourist. Then new place, new hotel, new room, and maybe little complaint, oh, this hotel very dirty, or just that kind of little complaint. Otherwise, it's a new place, so less attachment. Go here and there and enjoy. Daytime, enjoy seeing new things, new songs, or something new. And then tired, and the rest, the night rest. So life go like that way. So that also, you see, trying to seek some kind of peace of mind, isn't it? So everybody, no differences, believer or non-believer. I believe this religion, that religion, no differences. All want something good. Good, not necessarily money, but here, mainly, is some kind of inner peace. Even animal also is a want inner peace. Although their ability is very limited, but according to because of the limited sort of ability, they also try to keep because of that peace, inner peace. So so now the latest scientific finding, as I mentioned before, You see, now among the scientists, out of their research, years, with instrument, begin to realize importance of mental state. For health also, the mental state is very, very crucial factor for health. Constant fear, anger, these are very bad for our health. And some scientists even mentioned too much constant anger and fear. Of course, anger and fear, very close connection. More fear, more possibility of anger. More anger, more possibility of fear. So therefore, so this is anger and fear constantly occur. These actually eating our immune system. And other hand, compassion, spirit of forgiveness, these things are very, very helpful to maintain our immune system. So one story I want to share with you. When I carried that surgery, so one doctor, one specialist used to describe me as a young patient. And I told him, oh, I'm not a young patient. I already over 73. So then doctor says, yes, I know your age, but your physical condition looks like in age 60. He mentioned like that. So therefore, he described me as a young patient, like that. So here, of course, maybe Tibetan Samba maybe makes little differences, maybe. You know, after 59, then of course you see getting Samba difficult, and then eventually I forget eating Samba. So that way, I think more than 1 decade remained like that. Then eventually, I felt I'm Tibetan, and also I have the name of Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama, and also you see, I advise some people what Samba is very, very good nutrition or something. So while I advise other people eating Samba is good, then I myself must start eating Samba. Then gradually, when one occasion I was in Ladakh, so initially take Samba, then almost always some trouble, kasa, motion or something. No? So then I scientifically practice first few days 1 spoonful of Samba. Then after 1 week, 2 spoonful. Then after that, 3, 4, then eventually full, like that. So nowadays, I always is taking Samba at breakfast, like that. Oh, another sort of story. One occasion, when I travel in different places, Samba also with me. So one time in Singapore airport, you see, they opened, when they saw the Samba, they thought, oh, this is maybe drug. No, because cocaine, sorry, cocaine. So the police, you see, they, take out the way. They took and they examined like that. So in any way, there's no other sort of, I think, major factor. But I think one factor is I feel my mind comparatively quite peaceful, quite calm. I think at that time, Rajab already gone. No, not here. Oh, okay. I think at that time I mentioned, although after 10th March, 2008, when I give some sort of lecture here, my mind, a lot of disturbances, a lot of anguish, a lot of worry. But during that period, no single night sort of lost my sleep. No. Always sleep as usual. So daytime, a lot of sort of anxiety, a feeling of helplessness, hopelessness. But as far as sleep is concerned, no disturbances. So it indicates, I think, deeper level, my mind still quite calm. I feel like that. Hopefully. So that much I can tell you, according to my own experience. Calm mind, deep level. Surface level, yes, disturbances come. But come, go, come, go. And Shantideva sort of advice, when faced problem, if the problem can avoid, then no need to worry, make effort. If the problem, no possibility to overcome, then no use worry. Very realistic advice. Very, very realistic. So like that, this kind of sort of, what's the thinking, immense help to keep calm mind in deep down. So you also, same human being, same ability, same mind, same emotion. Only difference is whether pay more attention or not. That's the only difference. Otherwise, same. From the Buddhist viewpoint, everybody have Buddha nature. Buddha seed, everybody have that. So, wherever I go, I always try to sort of make clear the peaceful, the potential, or seed of peace of mind already there. Irrespective whether believer or non-believer, whether believe this or that. No differences. So that's my number one commitment to promote our inner value, mainly compassion, like that. And India's 1,000-year-old tradition, ahimsa, non-violence. Non-violence, not out of fear. Restrain harming other out of fear is not non-violence. Remain indifferent what is happening. That are not non-violence. Non-violence means you have the ability to harm other, but with love, with respect, restrain harming other. That's non-violence. So non-violence is a sign of strength, self-confidence. Non-violence, not at all signs of weakness, no. Like that. So India's tradition. So they restrain harming other. There must be motivation. The motivation is love other, respect others' well-being, others' right. With that, restrain harming other. So same attitude, harming yourself. Nobody wants that. So similarly, if I harm other, the other also have the same feeling which I have. So reasoning that way, restrain harm other. So that's non-violence. So non-violence is action. Action must be based on motivation. So here motivation is compassion. So non-violence or ahimsa and compassion is something like one coin.
Two sides of the coin.
Two sides. Two
sides of the coin.
Two faces of the coin, like that. So wherever I go, I promote ahimsa based on compassion. Then second, my commitment, promotion of religious harmony. That also in this tradition. So therefore, I describe myself as a messenger of India. And also now, last 51 years, I live this country. So my body survived by Indian dals and chapati and rice. And my mind, some kind of sort of that wisdom, you see, come from Nalanda masters and ultimately Buddha. So that also comes from India. So therefore, I describe not only message of India, Indian thought, but also son of India. So that expression irritate some Chinese leaders there. One of their accusation, now Dalai Lama openly state son of India. It's true. There almost now 7 decades, nothing learned from Chinese tradition. Everything from India's tradition. Or except I learned some part of Marxism, that from Chinese. So in early 50, 54, 55, when I was in China, so much attraction towards Marxism. So at that time, I asked Chinese official, concerned official, I want to join Chinese Communist Party. So then they advised me, better to wait. So I think that advice is, I think, correct. So indirectly, I think they felt, or sooner or later, their ideology may collapse. So better to wait. Like that. So here, this sort of meeting also, part of my 2 commitment, promotion of religious harmony, promotion of secular ethics. So each of you here, I think maybe about 200 people, naturally, I think a few hundred friends. Then each friend, another 10 person, another sort of, say, more people. So that's the way to to spread or to promote these values. It's a religious harmony, cannot buy, but must develop here. Mutual respect, admiration, and non-violence also cannot buy, cannot produce by mission. But strong conviction, non-violence is mutual destruction. Violence always bring more sort of negative side effect. So knowing these things, then deliberately choose non-violent way. Family level problem, even individual level problem. Sometimes some ideas, 2 contradictory ideas, too much stuff there. And sometimes, because of nervous breakdown, nervous breakdown. Sometimes suicide. That also some kind of inner violence, isn't it? And the family level or community level, like that. So it is also there. In order to proper member of our group, please keep your mind till your death. These 2 responsibility, promotion of human value, promotion of religious harmony, that you should commit. Okay? Then I call you spiritual brother. If you do not do that, then I will omit your name. Suki is rare. Isn't it? What do you think? So it is our common responsibility. We are part of 6 billion human beings. we have quite enough problem. The problem due to religious different name, extra problem. And we all have this deep potential here, but neglect that and complain. No use. Must realize inner potential and utilize that. So it is our common interest or common responsibility. So that's one thing. Then the Buddhist, Bodhisattva view in order to know the reality. Right? I think two levels. One level, now I think the word, the philosophical term, Bodhisattva, dependent in arising. So this concept, two levels. One conventional level, one more deeper level. Conventional level, things are interdependent, things are interconnected. Obviously, everything's always, all the phenomena which changing entirely depend on its own causes and conditions. So, including sort of pains and pleasure, these also these also belongs to phenomena which changing. So, pains and pleasure also entirely depend on its own causes and conditions. One cause, any event just happen, just one cause is impossible. Many causes and many factors involved. So that's the reality. Usually, you see, we look just one single event and appears independent, absolute. So we mentally also they grasp something like independent or absolute. So anger develops that way. Attachment also develops that way. So once we know that event due to many other factors, then there is no independent target of anger. Anger must have independent, absolute target. Of course, I love former President, Mr. Bush. Oh, wonderful person, really. But some of his policy, even to him also, one time I expressed, I love you, but some of your policy, I have great reservation. I mentioned to him, and he, not like that. So I love him. But, when the Iraq problem started, I think after the awful event in New York and Washington, September 11th, then people's mind, ultimately Saddam Hussein, that's absolute independence of target. So once Saddam Hussein removed, then everything okay, that kind of attitude. So this violent method start. They actually not that simple. Many things interrelated. So new administration, of course, I also have recently I have the audience of Obama. Very nice person. Non-white president. I think first time, isn't it? Very nice person, very nice. So the new administration now have to solve this problem. We started from previous administration. So in any way, so these, I think from Buddhist viewpoint, viewpoint of Bodhisattva, these wrong policy happen, not necessarily bad motivation, but sincere motivation. But they are very method to see the reality very very narrow way. So they can't see the implication, wider implication. So that's conventional level. Once we have the concept of Bodhisattva, or good or bad, something we want, or something we want, get it off the way, get it off. You see, both cases, as soon as we look at, then our mind automatically widens. So it can see the holistic. So in the economy field, health field, ecology field, politics, international relations, I think everywhere, it is very, very helpful to look, in order to know the reality, look from wider perspective, from distance, from holistic way. It's very important. So one level of conventional level, Bodhisattva, immense help to develop wider perspective. Then another level, deeper level, Bodhisattva, means finally things exist due to designation, right? Mental designation. So that means there is no independently, objectively exist. Ultimately, things are exist due to mental designation. So that view helps to reduce the grasping independent existence. Something good or absolutely good. Something bad, absolutely bad. Both the object side and oneself also. Independent self. So that helps to increase these, or say the destructive emotions. Right? That we call fundamental ignorance, like that. So the concept of Bodhisattva, two ways helping us to see the reality, conventional level or more deeper level. So the first conventional level, Bodhisattva, that's common in Pali tradition as well as Sanskrit tradition. The second one, although briefly mentioned in Pali tradition also, but more detailed, more sort of serious discussion about that in the Sanskrit tradition. And in that field, Nagarjuna really made immense sort of contribution about that concept. So now this book, Shantideva's book, of course when is concerned people is ask me what text. Then I thought this Shantideva's book may be good. Of course this will not sort of finish at one session or a few days. But let us start this year. Then hopefully annually we can carry continuously. Maybe some old face may disappear, but some new face will appear. So in any way, it's a life should go. That's life way. Go like that way. So now this text as a form of introduction of Buddha Dharma. It seems to see start from 9th chapter. Now everybody uses that text.
Does everybody have the text?
Oh, good.
Bodhisattva Charyavatara.
Shantideva's book.
No.
No. Shantideva's book, they do.
Guide to the Bodhisattva way of life. Or Bodhisattva way of life.
Kashadu. So 9th chapter, a few shlokas at the beginning of 9th chapter, I want to explain. Now, the trust of Chilava, and the thing got the Deshi Chukungas, Church of the Dishtua, Deshi Chukunga, Sajatans. No, love that.
So before starting the 9th chapter, I would like to get you back to the 1st chapter, where it begins with the homage, saying, respectfully I prostrate myself to the Sugatas, who are endowed with Dharmakaya.
Mm-hmm. So what is meaning of Dharmakaya? And what is the meaning of the Sugata, the worship? Sugata. Its meaning is Gotadi Tandadi Kasurpage. Da Tunge Judchava Nyor Shivena Devas. Tedevita Tedev Sar. Any shaking, Tedevisa, Mondu Cheve, Mondu Durbe, they are shepherds.
So, Sugata here means that someone has reached that level of blissfully reached that level and has actualized that level through the blissful state by overcoming the suffering and its causes.
Mm-hmm. So in order to know that, we have to think, we have to investigate what is the suffering, what is the source of suffering. Suffering here, suffering means experience. There are three kinds of suffering. Suffering of suffering, and suffering of change, then
pervasive existential condition suffering.
So 3 levels of suffering. So now causes of that. So now I think obviously they like pain. Even animals realize there's suffering, do not want. Then suffering of change is the certain sort of pleasure when we get something like beautiful sort of seeing, or beautiful sound, a taste, smell like that. You see, we get some kind of satisfaction, pleasure. But it's the same, sort of, for example, the same music. You see, initially, very beautiful. As soon as you hear that, you see, you feel very calm, peace, deep satisfaction. If you hear that day and night, then I think naturally, you see, you develop a desire, oh, how awful that, stop that. Oh, that kind of the feeling. So that means, you see, same object, but your attitude change. So the same object, some period produce some pleasure, satisfaction. But same object, due to certain circumstances, you see, it creates stumbu, or irritation, like that. So the object side, very nature is kasotati,
is a condition which is a catalyst for the changeable suffering.
Of money also. I think when poor person is become little wealthier person, feel very happy. And then millionaire, then billionaire, think only that level, or only think money, then I think that person still want more and more, and more jealousy, more sense of competition. And with that, I think usually you see corruption. I think more available among the the wealthier people. I think the beggars or poor people, I don't think it's much corruption. The ordinary people, I think much less jealousy, isn't it? Among the poor people, among beggars, maybe a little sort of competition or a little sort of jealousy. Otherwise, not much basis, jealousy. But more wealthier family, more jealousy. And jealousy brings desire to harm to stop their progress, these things. So therefore, sometimes wealth, initially you feel something like very precious, something like God. Eventually, that same sort of object creates more worry, more anxiety, more frustration. And money destroys friendship, even the brothers, sisters. It often happens. When the family economically poor, genuine friendship, genuine sense of brothers, sisters, become a little wealthier, then suspect each other. As soon as suspicion comes, friendship destroyed. Friendship entirely based on trust, mutual respect. So the sense of competition, negative competition, positive competition, okay. Negative competition, I think, destroy all trust. So like that. So therefore, these are in the second category, suffering of change. Now, third level, all these depend on Kasoda. I think firstly, our body. Of course, money is related to the body, not mind. False satisfaction developed in the mental level, but mainly physical comfort. Right? Like that. You see, many of these sort of things, actually, some kind of satisfaction actually entirely depend on sensorial Kasoda.
Perceptions.
Huh?
Perceptions. Sensorial, at the sensorial level.
Like some satisfaction. Hearing music. You see, that satisfaction depends on hearing Kasoda, sensorial experience. Seeing beautiful thing and get some pleasure, that also depends on. So smell, touch, taste, all these, some satisfaction at the mental level, depend on sensorial experience. So long the sensorial levels of some experience there, that mental level satisfaction there. Sensorial level stop, no longer there. So more durable sort of pleasure or satisfaction on mental level must come through mental itself. Like faith, not depend on sensorial. So through reasons or through some sort of experience, certain faith, firm faith, is mental level, not depend on sensorial. So people usually do not know, I think lack of experience, they're seeking deeper satisfaction from mental level. So I think animal, difficult. But we human being, because of this intelligence, we have the capacity to develop a certain sort of source of joyfulness on mental level itself. Faith, compassion, then also analytical meditation. Also, you see, entirely on mental level, it brings immense sort of source of joyfulness, satisfaction. So analytical meditation, not necessarily on religious terms, right? But any field, a certain thing is in there, analyze and thinking, mental level. You can get some kind of deeper satisfaction on mental level. So, oh, now is the cause of that kind of suffering. 두식 동에서야디 낭배 최게 집전에 삭생년이 풍부 삭바트 잡았으잖아요. 레닌지 삭배왕 좋아. 레닌지 삭배왕이 예배 풍부. 이는 두식 동에.
So with regards to the third type of suffering that is Holiness referred to, which is the pervasive conditioned existential suffering, it is a suffering which comes about as a result of the karma and delusions. Particularly in Buddhist terms, we use the term the contaminated or impure karma and delusions, which bring about the psychophysical aggregates. So that is basically that psychophysical aggregates which, the psychophysical aggregates which come about as a result of the contaminated karma and delusion is termed as the third type of suffering.
Mm-hmm. So that is a different form of suffering, all changing nature, so must be causes and conditions. Now this question of what causes of this suffering. And then particularly, in order to feel the possibility of cessation of these cease of this suffering, we must investigate the cause of that suffering, whether can be eliminated or not. Now this is the key factor. Four Noble Truth. It's the first Noble Truth, suffering, truth of suffering. Second, truth of cause. So unless we develop clear sort of awareness, possibility of elimination of this cause of suffering, it is impossible to develop conviction about third, nirodha, because of truth of cessation. Without proper awareness about that or possibility of that, then the effort follow mark or path, impossible. Arya path, just a word, right? Arya path, or the noble path, then just a word. So the key thing is we must think or analyze or investigate whether there is possibility of elimination of source of suffering. So now we have to know what is the source of suffering. karma, one thing. Karma is action. Action, now here, the suffering is part of experience. So, mental thing. The external matter causing pains and pleasure. But pleasure and pain itself is part of mind, mental experience. So the ultimate source of that experience must be part of mind. So now the emotions. So positive emotion causing pleasure. Negative emotion, destructive emotion causing suffering. So the very idea, very demarcation, positive and negative or destructive or constructive is due to result. Result something good everybody want. So we call positive. The result, painful, even animal do not want. Therefore, it's considered negative. So cause of that also is destructive or negative. So now, as I mentioned before, I think no sentient being deliberately create problem or suffering. So suffering there, endless suffering there. Yet nobody want, no sentient being want that. If every sentient being have choose or power, you see, to get rid of suffering, then I think suffering will not be there. So that means want, do not want, overcome suffering, but suffering there due to ignorance. I think we can say short-sighted, not seeing the deeper level. So as I mentioned earlier, the conventional level also, you see, we have to know the wider sort of
No.
Ground,
wider ground.
No. And then deeper level. So now the ninth chapter. In order to now analyze or investigate the possibility of elimination of the suffering or destructive emotion. Now ninth chapter. I think Rajiv, I think, did you inform them that this is the text? If you mentioned, then I think very few have that copy.
Do you have this? Please show to them.
Oh, very good. Good. Cultivate. Not the real text. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, not that text.
Oh. I think the Shantideva's text, maybe I think, of course I mentioned, I mentioned before, whether you there or not, you see, this will not finish, so one or a few days. So let us start this year. Then perhaps I think annually, if you are not boring, then I think annually we can carry, you see, this kind of sort of session. Then we can go chapter to chapter, chapter by chapter way.
Yes.
Like that. And in ninth chapter, some school of thought about non-Buddhist. I myself, knowledge very limited. So it is wonderful. A teacher, without knowing the subject properly, making some lecture. That's wonderful. So ninth chapter now, some books. Ninth chapter. 야란데다 탐천에 투베 시럽 터도 송스.
So the ninth chapter begins by saying, all these branches of the doctrine, the powerful Lord expounded for the sake of wisdom.
So here wisdom means mainly now in order to know the reality on deeper level. Oh yeah. That the to be sure to song race didn't even do that or the in where comes in the to make it out the Mombay race. Didn't do that Momba Sayagi Nyambu the caress love no top shot maris shiruk shot race. Shiruk there Mombay cheater. 친절로도 또 능신 여든매 자주치는 게 싫었대 겨울에서.
So in the second line it says the powerful Lord expounded for the sake of wisdom. And regarding the wisdom here, we are talking about wisdom which differentiates between what is right and wrong correctly, and that goes against the distorted notion of things, misconception about, and the reason why this wisdom has to be developed is in order to overcome through this antidote, the wisdom that you develop, which serves as an antidote against that of ignorance, which is the root of suffering. And we are here not in order to have that antidote, only the skillful means or the method part of the practices is not what is referred to here, but that of the wisdom, realizing things as the reality as it is.
대신에 동에다 시원데 시럽기스. 다음은 시럽디 애니 하나 되기 시대하게 가다지 최남지 인루 터두 그다 터두 다 몽바들 니샤노나 근소 진입에 최기 내류로 몽바지 다 딘데기 몽바 영야디 자와자와디 지 인루 le momba tigi pajir chayung yore manguchi dindi yimi indusane da momba ni shebe da momba khasur pige conventional level sede achikda deeper level sede achik rimba ni yobe indusane da rimba ni chegdo wa so da delaya umabellugi dambani sunde ati jir dambani mudibe ndugi yore 지나마와 용거 누구야 너한테 누구야래 다 안데 담바니사 우모빌루 담바니 간다 쳐놈 그 인루 마다 맞아봐 줘야기 그래 저기는 신수 직체 다들라 타냐 담바 세대야지 타냐도 작성 거는 샤샤하기 내 주직이 있잖아요 그 타냐 담바 직체 다 대성로 그게 담 가로 그게 메드벌 텔레바 덤르도 다네 어다 최저단티 인수 모두 컨디저래 그 내로 모두 컨디저래 파 14를 다네 도스마 상당히 다 낭좀 테이머 심벌 아니 제용겨 봐 낭좀 테이머 심벌 제니 니야기 내로지 그러면이샤 달래야 다 인루를 제베 로이 니야지 미드잖아요 아니 담담담바스 담바니 남샤송데
So here in the same verse, verse number 3 and 4 says,
what time?
Therefore,
Deep break. What time? 그래서 신수.
나 가망가 주시는 거야.
아,
가망가 주시기 이제 나한테 되겠어.
Okay.
So the line 3 and 4 in the first verse of the 9th chapter says, therefore they must generate this wisdom who wish to have an end of suffering. So the wisdom here, as said earlier, is the wisdom which sees things, the ultimate nature of things as it is. We can also divide make a distinction in terms of the ignorance. Ignorance on the one level is ignorance about the conventional level of things, and even that is in turn rooted in the former one, which is that ignorance about the reality of things as they are. And so because of this, we have the ultimate ignorance in relation to the conventional level of things, and ignorance in relation to ultimate nature of things. And therefore, in the Madhyamaka philosophical thought, there is this distinction between the two truths. And the true truths, which are those of the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. Conventional truth is that truth which we can accept through renown, what is renowned in the world, without making any kind of analytical, critical analysis of things. Just accept the things as they are, without doing any kind of examination of them. And that is the conventional level of truth. And then when you go beyond that level, you have the nature of things, what is known as the nature of phenomena. When you go deeper into the deeper level of how they actually exist and reflect on them, then we find that there is this ultimate truth, which should be found through critical analysis of things in order to find how things really exist. And therefore, that truth is the truth, ultimate truth, in other words, the reality as it is.
Yeah. That issue there, the Shologa Anguduge, Telangik, the Namuton. 나저보다 배워서 또 송샤다 되기 어디 전문이 가려야 아니 미나라 땅야라 거 바르벌 부 쳬베이나 배나 가 지다 버랑 아주 미 샤잡아 미징에 미 되잖아지 다 잡아칭에 배나 사이언티스트 시비는 잡아치기도 와 그 낭좀 될 참아샤브제 그 정신으로 근데도 봐 잡아거로 자용도 저자 한데 나저버 tele지든 놈이도 가다 가자 지든 배워다 나저 니 시셔야 되나라 반 배지디 셔슈르다 즉 천리비 참배 즉 심주층의 그 직디 나저베 차체 날 저로서 요가서 한다 직디 더 남만라 잡아체니 아니 던내마로 로저와 던내마 내가 가졌다 똑배고는 저봐 사지 자동으로 그래서 인도산에 낭좀 용라게 단 낭좀 될 참아셔진 고 잡아신도 되겠지 다디 난저버차 지금 배워 직샤 다 난저베 나리 야 천디버점 다 상담 되겠지 야다 천딜레 아니 어다면 되게 배나 난저발이야 치 숙쟁기체 야 잡아치는 릭지 다 숙쟁 뭐임베 지금 낭나버시벌 잡아치는 릭지 배지 니용 정도가 다 낭나버시벌 잡아치는 달라양 천디장기 지금 나버시벌 걸 잡아치는 지 다야 나버시벌 다게 윤 상단 나버시베 any duty nearly to country or a country or then they do Java that young is going to leave to that the rich of a chick, and the rich of a machine chick, Neon Shadow, Momok Shadow.
And then in the third verse, it says, there are two kinds of people are to be distinguished: meditative thinkers or yogis, and ordinary folk. Now, here, with regard to this verse, we can make distinction between two different kinds of people, basically. Those who take things for granted as they are, as they see them, without making any kind of investigation or examination of them, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, those people who are beings who do critical analysis of things, for example, the scientists, who are not just satisfied with what appears to them, the apparent, what is apparent to them, but they wish to go deeper into the nature of things. And therefore, here, when we talk about the common folk or ordinary folk and the yogis, common folks are those who do not make any kind of examination of things, not any kind of critical examination of things, but take the things as they're renowned. Whereas in the yogis here can be understood as those who exert their mind on correctly on the meaning or objects that they investigate. And within the yogis, there may be again those who are more focusing, those who focus more on the physical level of things and do analysis of them, and those who do analysis of the mind and check what kind of thoughts, processes, and all are going on in them, and so forth. And within this second category of the yogis, we can have those who are who focus mainly on the issues of this life, and on the one hand, and then on the other hand,
this life, or something like, I think, investigate concerning our day-to-day or the experience about consciousness, emotion. Another, the very consciousness itself, so whether it come from previous continuation or not. What's the ultimate sort of cause? Right, so substantial cause. Substantial cause. There must be consciousness or particle. If consciousness comes from particle, from brain, from nervous system,
neurons,
neuron, then the neuron, there is sort of physical there, no matter how subtle. But consciousness is a mere experience. So big differences. So it can be, or then from because of the unphysical thing produce physical produce mind, whether possible or not. Further investigation. Then conclusion, the physical, because of substantial cause must be physical. So similarly, mind, formless, that substantial cause must be a similar one. And that brings continuation, even just physical continuation of parent's parent. Say about 1,000 generations, then 100,000 generations. Go like that at the beginning of the forming the world or whole universe. That also is to go further at the time of Big Bang. Time of Big Bang, also there is tremendous sort of energy. So that energy come from, there must be some physical. So continuation of this, also the substantial cause, continuation of substantial cause of this body, beginningless, very difficult to, because of the Shakpa, correct? Point to beginning. Very difficult. So of course, different form. Sometimes very subtle, and then combine different sort of particles, then new form. New form produce new form, evolution way. And then eventually, the sort of dissolution also more grosser level, sort of dissolve more subtle level. Finally, a space particle. And also it's come from space particle. Like that. That's the physical body. So, this body is the continuation of the conventional, substantial cause. Very difficult to say beginning. So, consciousness, if consciousness must come from similar sort of nature, then there must be continuation of previous consciousness. So this on the level of conventional level. So when some sort of thinker is investigate about that level, then that touches previous life, and once previous life there, then automatically there must be, there will be, could be next life like that. So another category. So this is not only concerned about our day-to-day consciousness or experience these things. For example, awakening state consciousness, dream state consciousness, deep sleep states consciousness, and consciousness at the time of faint. So here, we last year, the head of the head of the Yellowhead sect, his name Losanyima, great scholar. Of course, younger generation. After we came to India, and then continues to study, then become Kishi, and then gradually become head of the Yellowhead sect. Great scholar as well as good practitioner. Very good monk. I think some of you already know that. Some may not. So you see, after he died, a few days his body remained very fresh. Then I received the information. His body still remained very fresh. So then I asked Delhi hospital where some equipment kept in order to carry experiment on dead body. So some machine available, also 2 people trained. So I asked them, go there. And they immediately went to South India. Then I think next, almost 2 weeks, or more than 10 days. You see, they put all the wires on dead body's head, like that. So, you don't have to show it. Just sing it. 18 days. 18 days, exact. So 18 days means how many hours? 24 hours. 18. Huh? 400. 430. So over 400 hours, you see, remain his body very fresh. So, up to now, the scientists, no explanation. That's a fact. We already noticed, right? So there must be some cause. Okay. That lady shot. Another one, yeah. I think such things is good. When you see some audience feel sleep, then this kind of noise is good. And also, you see, when I give some lecture, long hour, some people, you see, feel sleep, particularly the elder people. Very strong faith, but not much interest to learn. So sometimes they feel sleep. So you see, my what's called sneeze away.
Sneezing.
Sneezing. Like that. Or sometimes very helpful. Wake up their sleep like that. So investigation, further investigation, different mental state at the dream time, or dream level, or deep sleep level, and faint level. Now this kind of person, this kind of sort of occasion, he clinically dead. Body function cease, brain function cease, but still body very much fresh. And as soon as some kind of meditation cease, then some liquid come, and body immediately smell. So last week, one Lama Juba, I think more than 10 days already, I did not get some information, but after I think 1 week, we sent people, same people, there, we sent. So what happened, I don't know. What did they do? What did they send to? What happened? So they reached there. So that person still remain there or finished? I see. So how many days? 2 weeks. Like that. So these are, you see, they are subject to further investigation. So in order to know the different level of mind or energy. So even I think we, daily we experience sleep, but we do not know what's the real sort of state of mind at that time. What kind of mind at the sleep, deep sleep. Like that. So these are different category of people who just content what they see, what they experience on conventional level. There's some further investigation. So 2 levels. Within that, different levels. Then here, different school of thought, of religion, of spirituality come. So there are, now, see, one occasion in Amrit, now I think tea ready? So, stop. So I think let us start some question answer. Any question? Start from?
We're just taking a minute to get the
yes,
microphones in place, but please.
Or the microphone.
There is one question which has been nagging my mind. The Nagarjuna's idea of shunya, how does it give rise to compassion? The relation between shunya and compassion.
The shunya, idea of shunya is it brings the, I think, aim, the possibility of the cessation of suffering. So that immense help for compassion, because compassion is a desire to get rid of suffering of other being. So once you see the possibility of cessation of the suffering, then your concern of their suffering really becomes something realistic. Otherwise, just wishful thinking. Clear? So that's the connection. So therefore, the Shabba-minded sort of practitioner first meditate on Shunya, then next Bodhicitta and the Karuna. Not that much sharp-minded, then not much problem, not much sort of differences. Just practice of compassion, Mahakaruna, mainly just faith, without knowing the target very clearly, convincingly. Understanding about Shunya, then more sort of conviction. See clearly they are object. Then desire to achieve that. So that's the connection. Clear? Oh.
Shunya and anatta?
Shunya is something absence. So what absence? The independent existence. So that we call atta. No. Oh. So the independent self. See here, you see the independent self, the being or sentient being, which we have the feeling of self. Then also independent self in these, because of the mindless phenomena, we also usually call there is sort of appearance of self-existence that we call independent self. That also we call Atma or something. So that does not exist. So Anatma. Anatma, and both sort of the base. Anatma, self, or sentient being, Anatma of
inanimate objects.
Oh, like that. The Aryadeva sort of verse, yeah, look at it. 그래서 강을 때는 중요봐. 지구다. 강을 때는 중요봐. 되는 라와 민주로스.
What arises
디근 라와 매버데 되나 다네 여마인서. 어다데 라와데 다르민 따도.
So what arises through dependence does not have self.
The Aryadeva, 400 verses.
So in Aryadeva's 400 verses, it says what arises in dependence has no self entity, selfhood, and therefore things.
Whatever is lacking, independent existence is the understanding of the selflessness.
디 십제베 제바 디 젠덕디 제르나 달라 다지 샤와니스 dakti shawanis kangshin ngobonu ji shana rama lebe moran shin te temeba ne tameba.
Then in the commentary, Acharya Chandrakirti's commentary to this same text, he said that what exists as independently is referred to as the self-nature, and the rejection of this self-nature is the understanding of emptiness.
So, Atma or Anatma, the subject
So this, the subject of Atma, the Anatma, is a very vast and expansive.
Next. Yes?
Yes.
That lady.
We'll move down across the room.
His Holiness, it's in line with what we just heard, that what is independent is the self, and the rejection of the self would lead to anatma. Is that, have we got it right?
Kosa. Really? Really? 그게 안 돼, 다 돼. 저 다니가 다 말아.
So here,
야, 나 뒤로다. 오면 죽어 나, 나도 오면 죽어 나야. 가자. 유목견은 멀리 주소로 딸내 좀 로이 통주지. 다는 디 유도 따셔네. 내저바이 다는 거버치 다니도 와. 남의 다디 미베 다디 다녀도 여지. 치매 다디 신유 다디 등 거야지.
So here we need to we need to have a very clear understanding as to what reference of this word self is to be rejected and what reference of the word self is to be posited. Acharya Chandrakirti, he so well explicated in his text, Supplement to the Middle Way, where he said that seeing that all the afflictive emotions, negative emotions, and the resultant suffering, they are caused by the grasping at the self, and then a yogi seeing that this is the case, he rejects the self. So here, Acharya Chandrakirti tries to tease apart the two levels of selves, the self. One which is to be rejected, the independent self, and the other which is posited on the conventional sense. So we need to be able to make a very clear distinction between the self on two levels.
Now, when we feel I want happiness, that's mere I. That exists. Then, when that sort of feeling of mere I, at that very moment, I appears something self-existent. Right? It appears like that. But at that moment, the feeling of I not grasping independent existence, then more sort of grasping sort of feeling. Then our feeling grasping the appearances.
No.
Appearance, the independent
existence.
The independent appearances, then some kind of grasping rate.
Yes. So then, just as the self appears to be independently existent, then you try to approve this appearance and then grasp to this self existing independently.
So the second level now, the previous level, just the feeling or recognize just a mere I. The second level, then more solid I. Now that's the wrong view. I think when you life is at a normal or happy moment, you feel I is there, I'm happy. Then someone disturb you, then you develop some kind of why he or she disturb me, I. Then more solid I. So when destructive emotion develop, the strong self or solid I, almost beside body and mind, something not designated, but something solid, independent, that kind of appearance, and also have the feeling I, he or she now harming I must retaliate. I must defend myself. At that moment, then the feeling of I is much differences. The mere feeling of I and that moment's I different. So that's the basis of all the destructive emotion. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, you see that view, the emptiness of that solid I, does not mean not exist of the
Self.
just self. Self is there, but not as as appears. Appears something different. When you look at me, or this Dalai Lama, so you can say that you are seeing Dalai Lama's body, Dalai Lama's perhaps voice, and also through my voice and physical sort of gestures, you can, some extent, you can read my mind. So what's Dalai Lama now? You are seeing Dalai Lama's body, hearing Dalai Lama's voice, and some understand Dalai Lama's mind. But what Dalai Lama? Huh?
One can make an attempt, of course one is not, maybe not successful, but the real connectivity is the soul's connectivity with the soul, I mean the self's connectivity with the self.
그래서
Self, the soul, 이 개바침.
가.
이 self, the soul, 단연이가 개바침.
So perhaps I may explain you something here, I think. You know, one time in Amritsar, some leaders and representatives and scholars of different religious tradition, some interfaith sort of discussion. So there, I think one Sufi practitioner, or I now not very clearly remember, or possibly one Jewish rabbi, you see, put 3 questions. What is self? Number 2, whether there is a beginning of that self or not. And third question, whether there is end or not about that self. So all major religious tradition, you see, making answer for these 3 questions. So first question, answer for first question makes division, Buddhism and all non-Buddhism. Buddhism, anatma, so no independent self. The rest of the non-Buddhist tradition, you see, they believe atma or soul theory, which is something like owner of this body and speech and mind. So the owner and the possessor
And the objects of possession
must be different. So owner come from within the
objects to be owned.
Is not sense. So the owner must be above. So that's the soul. And then furthermore, those non-Buddhist ancient Indian thought who accept rebirth. So this body and voice which depend on this body, and also mind which entirely depend on this brain, new. So there must be independent self or soul which take new life, new body. And next life, from this body, there must be something, go another sort of, take another body. So there must be independent self. So that's the concept of soul. So according to Christianity, after death, body dead. So the soul, I don't know, remain for the time being in the coffin, at a good rest, or thoughtlessness, I don't know. So then final judgment come. Then soul, what kind of form, I don't know, raise and go heaven or go hell. And finished that. So the Buddhism, self entirely depend on body, speech, and mind. The combination of body, speech, mainly body and mind, combine these two, then designated self. No independent self. That's anattma theory. So designated self is there. Designation, grosser level body and mind, subtle body and mind. So from previous life, come to this life, the subtle mind, subtle energy, subtle body. So the subtle body, subtle mind, no beginning, no end. Like that. That's the Buddhist. So the division, the answer for what's self. So these two divisions. Then there is beginning or not. Those tradition accept creator. Then there's a beginning. When creator creates, that's the beginning. Jainism and Buddhism, no creator. This something like self-creation. So, according to that, what's it there? Causes of mind, or as I briefly touched, the continuation of mind, continuation of particles. So no beginning. Then, whether there is end or not, so for answer for the second question, Jainism, Buddhism, same, no beginning. Any Jain here? Any Jain scholar? No, no, disciple. Oh yes, one Jain, no? So according to Jainism, since you see no creator, so due to karma, so karma, once we accept karma, there must be creator of that karma. So if karma is beginningless, the creator of karma must be beginningless.
There is not belief that there is a karma, there is a creator, but it's all a endless, beginningless srishti which is. Yeah. Okay. Now, definitely there is no such belief that there is a creator. This srishti is beginning, no beginning, no end. It goes on. And so far as the question of karmas, thinking that karmas is a beginning, this itself is no beginning of the karmas either. So it's a very complicated question there actually. And it's very clear that in all three, even in the Sankhya system, Krishna says very clearly that he is not actually the creator. Because he is not, then if he is a creator, then somebody else has created him. So this is notion is not clear. This discussion and debate always carries on. But definitely the karma, the Atma, there is a belief, strong belief, Atma is there, not in terms of like an individual strong self that gives birth to I-ness, big I-ness. No. It is a universal factor. In the universal factor, this Atma is completely pure consciousness or pure. But then it is activated with the known living. It is there, two divisions there. One something Chetna, one is Achetan. In Sanskrit or Hindi, we have actually better understanding. When I translate it in English, there's always not exactly proper words in English that the idea can be conveyed. But the mixture of the two, which is living and non-living, so this relation between the two is causing a karma. What we term is a karma.
Clear? So in any way, not very clear, but doesn't matter. You see, there's differences, there's different views. So this is the answer for whether this is beginning or not. At least for Buddhism, you see, the continuation of mind, continuation of subtle energy, always there. Logically, that subtle energy, subtle mind, you see, must be its own substantial causes. So that means, substantial means like making clay pumbach zabum seveina, jimbach kegdua, sibum seveina, serge kugdua, or nyelingula.
So, for example, if we wish to make a clay pot, we need the substantial cause, which is the clay. And if we wish to make a golden pot, then we need to have the substantial cause, which is the gold itself.
But of course, that goes, as I mentioned earlier, at the time of Big Bang. At that time, no gold. But real substance with the particle already there. Then combination of some other sort of, because of the substance, some other substance, then gradually the gold nature, then gradually, after millions of years, eventually develop. So today's gold, sort of one article made by gold, the continuity must be of gold, previous sort of was the substantial cause. So similarly, these bodies, immediate sort of what it is, substantial cause is parents' semen and blood or egg, like that. So that further goes several generations. At the beginning of Big Bang, the substance already there, like that. But no matter how subtlety, but still physical. So mind is something different. So very different, formless. And something like subtle energy. With combination of this body, the different level of mind develop, such as senses of organs. But all cognitive nature, that is the substantial thing. So any cognitive phenomena, its substantial cause must be that nature. So that's the reason. That's the logic. We believe continuation. And then on top of that, there are people who actually remember past life. Isn't it? So some may not be, I think, false, but some I think are very true. I met, you see, I heard, you see, some Tibetan. Actually, I met some Tibetan who actually come from Tibet on the insisting, my home is India. And when they reach India, they insist, my home is South India. Then finally reach one of Tibetan settlement. When parent with that child, with the boy, reached there, then that boy actually led their parent to one monastery, and within the monastery, one building, one small house. He led there. Then when he reached that room, he said, now this is my room. Then he mentioned in one box, my glass there. Then open it, glass there. Very clear. So such things happen. Then many years ago, one girl around Patiala, I actually met, clearly expressed their past memory and the name of the past life's relatives. Another girl in Kampur I met. That girl, actually 4 parents, her sort of expression of memory of past life is so convincing. The past life also at a young age died. So the previous life's parents are still there. So since new girl's expression is so convincing, the previous two parents also accepted as their girl. So one life for parents. Like that. So such things happen. So we need more research work. Just deny or impossible. This isn't too simple. But must investigate and try to find answer scientifically. Answer. So these are a little bit mystery. So ancient different sort of non-Buddhist tradition, Jains and Hindus and many varieties of Hindu, we believe rebirth, reincarnation, isn't it? Like that. Then the third question, whether this end or not, according to those traditions who believe creator, I think I don't know whether it's a permanent end or not, but when you reach heaven or hell, then remain permanently or not, I don't know. Then quite troublesome. In hell, permanently remain there. I think better to end, right? Even the self, I think, soul disappear, then better. Isn't it? So that I don't know. As far as Buddhism is concerned, and also I think Jainism. Recently I was in Kasachukti, one famous Jain sacred place in Palitana. There are, I think, at least 20 Jain masters and scholars. We had sort of lengthy discussion. So many similar sort of idea, similar view. So you see, I think most popularly, the Jainism and the Buddhism have the answer no end, except in Buddhist tradition, in Buddhist school of thought, Vivashik, there is description, end of life, end of mind. Buddha achieved Mahaparinirvana, Kushinakar. That is really end of the being. Then Buddha no longer as a sentient being. So end. Like the butter lamp, the seas, like that. But except that, all, say, the Buddhist school of thought, you see, have the view, there is no reason to end our subtle consciousness. Subtle consciousness remain continuously. At the Buddhahood stage, subtle mind then fully function. All grosser level of mind cease. The subtle mind alone act everything. So the mind, all-knowing mind, possible because of that subtle mind have special energy, like that. So no end. That's the Buddhist view. So some people feel more comfortable that view. Some people, I think, may be different. So therefore, variety of religions come on this planet. Even at the Buddha's own time or Nagarjuna's time, there are many sort of say different school of thought exist. Nobody tried to eliminate them. We live together as brothers, sisters. So through that way, India developed genuine harmony among the different religious traditions, as I mentioned before, like that. So now that is the book. Thank you, thank you. So this book, actual oral transmission, I received this book 1967 at Bodh Gaya from one great, was a learned, simple Buddhist practitioner. I think we can consider him truly Bodhisattva, a wonderful person. So since then, I study, contemplate on this book. Really wonderful. As far as Karuna is concerned, the 6th chapter and 8th chapter is marvelous, excellent. Then Shunya, the 9th chapter, mentioned. Oh, daily life. See, I think these are the practice in the sense, see, now for example, knowing alphabet, A, B, C, D, how to practice. Just knowing and realize. That's the practice. Not a physical practice or verbal practice. These are simply awareness, mind. Right? So, Pratityasamutpad, knowing, a knowledge, a mind, that provides our attitude towards everything a little bit wider, a little bit open. So, as I mentioned before, we can see the reality much more clear, and also much less disturbances in our mind. Because now, for example, when we look some negative thing, just closely, it appears huge, unbearable. If that same sort of accident, same sort of tragedy, look from wider perspective, okay, that's very bad, very unfortunate, but okay. That kind of feeling, isn't it? So, Pratityasamutpad, the way of practice is like that. Just equipped our mind to look wider angle, wider perspective. That's the practice. Then through that way, you get, firstly, immediately, you get some more stable mind. Something like stabilizer survey. Stabilizer. Otherwise, it's the electricity sometimes very high, the voltage sometimes very high, sometimes very low. Stabilizer, you see, remain control like that. When we contact some positive thing, too much sometimes I criticize my American friend. You see, there are, little good things happen. Oh, overjoy, shouting, jumping. Little bad things happen. Demoralized, like that. So should not, I usually sit telling my American friend, should not do that. Very good things happen, should be better calm. Very bad things happen, better to calm. Isn't it? With acknowledge or knowing, things happen like that, then much better. Our body also, too much overjoy, too much sad, bad for our health. More maintain, better. So, Pratityasamutpad concept, really maintain our mind more stability, stable, like that. Itself, nothing. Get a divorce. View stick.
So, Pratityasamutpad, it by itself, we can't talk about it being positive or negative, but it gives us a view as to how to look at the world.
And then one, so Pratityasamutpad, the Nagarjuna, in a subtle way of meaning, Pratityasamutpad, just a mere designation. You see, that the actual meaning of shunyata. Shunyata does not mean just a zero, but nothingness. Shunyata is something there, something always changing due to depend on many other factors. So there is no independent, absolute sort of existence. So if there is independent sort of absolute existence there, then can't change, isn't it? Change means other factor influence that. So things are interdependent, then other factor can influence. If its existence is something independent, then other factor cannot influence. Clear? So the Bodhisattva concept gives me flexibility. So that theory is my very, very favorite subject. So that, I think, best explanation about that is Nagarjuna. Because first century, second century, Nalanda. So I think the Indian brain, I think always protected by this kind of sort of thing. So I think a special brain there. I think we Tibetan, quite good because cold climate. So without that, we can protect our brain quite sufficiently. Now Rajiv, I think without that and also without hair, I think much more difficult. Now I also now catching him like that. So anyway. Now next question. Oh yes.
Just a small question.
Yes.
You received oral transmission 67 in Bodh Gaya.
Oh.
Is that Kuno Lama Rinpoche?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh. I think he not only received oral transmission in many years ago in Kham area. Now I can't remember the name of his guru. Then he practiced this text, and also he gave teaching to many people. And he advised me, please now give teaching or explain this text as much as possible to others. He mentioned, and I promise, I think, and then also this is short text, isn't it? So one advantage is short text, so therefore it takes much less time. And then also another sort of advantage is short period. So those sort of verses which I have fuller knowledge, I can extendedly explain. Those shloka which I myself not very sure whether I understand properly or not. So then I just read, like that, without much explanation. There is Tibetan saying,
So the Tibetan saying goes that it's like an old person eating food.
So that means those soft food, you see, eat the normal way. Those hard, either thrown or either just a swallow. So I do that. Those verses I can explain. Then I explain those hard verses, difficult verses. Then either swallow or just leave it. Yes.
Your Holiness, this is to do with what we understand to be from texts as the true nature of the mind and our focus on karuna in this discussion. If the true nature of the mind is absolute purity, then it should logically go beyond anything positive or negative. So if we are focusing on, and therefore I suppose my question is, therefore, by focusing on maybe Karuna or any of the other Brahmaviharas, is it possible to get a true realization of the absolute purity, as opposed to an intellectual understanding? Or is the focus on Karuna and the other Brahmaviharas essentially to help us function better as a society and as a sort of a moral compass or as a moral anchor?
That main point, correct. I think second part, as I mentioned earlier, my main effort to promote compassionate society, not talking about religion, not talking about faith, through education, through awareness, using our common sense, using our common experience, and then latest the scientific finding, as I mentioned briefly before. So using these as a reason to bring more awareness, the value of compassion. Now, particularly now these days, many parts of the world, I think people really fed up about violence. So in order to reduce violence, just increase police force or security personnel or military forces is, I think, negative, counterproductive. So the real peace must come from within. So everyone have that potential. So as I mentioned earlier, firstly, through education, individual level, then family level, then community level, that I think is very possible. I think entire over 6 billion human beings become religious-minded. That's impossible. But it is possible. 6 billion human beings through proper education, I think, can be more compassionate, more peaceful people. That we can do. I feel like that. So that's one thing. Then the complete purification. These are individual business, not entire 6 billion human beings. And critics will think, what do you say? As that Gawali, turn time back Gawa in the Shikdua. Gulungi Gawa, Sungdin Gawa Shikdua.
So as to your question, that if the true nature of the mind is something absolutely pure, then it should transcend or it should be beyond good and bad. To this, there's a mention as to what constitutes virtue or goodness. In the Abhidhamma text, it speaks about different kinds of goodness. So what His Holiness could recall so well is the text Abhidhamma Samuchaya. So in that text, there's the mention by Arya Asanga. There's a mention of the goodness or virtue in different forms, like the ultimate virtue or the concomitant virtue or and natural virtue.
And there is also a positivity or a virtue which is called gentle, which means something that is concomitant, something that follows from another which is similar to another virtue.
So virtue, in the sense, a certain sort of motivation, then these motivation in the level of grosser level of mind. The subtle mind, when we say the pure, because of the pure nature, they mainly refer subtle mind. So that level, all grosser level already cease. So the virtues, non-virtues on the level of grosser level. But the subtle level, then beyond that kind of virtues, but different virtues.
Yes. So when it comes to the mind on a very subtle purity, so that is that transcends all the qualities of virtue which is described on the gross level. So then the kind of virtue that you ascribe to that level of the subtlety of the mind is something that is beyond the ordinary or the gross level virtues.
So more detailed explanation about subtle mind, the grosser level of mind, in Guhi Samaja, Tantra, there are also the Nagarjuna and Chandakirti and Kasajuti, Aryandeva, all made very good commentary about Guhi Samaja Tantra. So there are very good explanation about different level of mind. And some practitioner, even our generation, some practitioner, they grow through meditation, through practice, the grosser level mind, weakens.
They see that they experience the grosser levels of the mind becoming less obvious.
Actually, at the time of death, the dissolution, grosser level of phenomena dissolve more subtle, more subtle, more subtle, more subtle. So, in the awakened state, through meditation, through yoga practice, deliberately, with effort, can do dissolve, dissolution.
Dissolution of the grosser levels to the subtler states.
Is that what is called cosmic energy? The energy of the mind that's outside of us that comes to us again in our next life?
The cosmic energy is the Brahmins, cosmic
So actually, as to what it means by cosmic, what is the reference of this word cosmic, is what we need to consider. Because some people, they tend to speak about very big or massive Brahma. They speak of something of that nature, and which is also unitary, monolithic. So if you think of cosmic in that sense, then this would be.
There are different sort of different views, isn't it? There's, I said there, Brahma, something, something.
Very expansive and unitary.
All existence is something. So we are part of that. So for the time being, we are separate. Then ultimately,
we go back, or we dissolve back into, merge back.
So that's one different sort of
view,
concept, view. And Buddhism, I don't think there is some kind of huge or the universal some kind of energy. No, individual energy, individual. So ultimately, one individual self is creator, one's own sort of world, like that. So combination of billions and billions of sentient beings, you see, their karma created the whole universe. Then in certain period, because the universe based on more grosser sort of particle, so there must be end. So again, I think here, the external phenomena also, you see, come from subtle space to grosser body, like rocks, hills, or these waters, these things. Then ultimately, again, dissolve up to space. So sentient being, mental level, with mind, also, you see, the grosser level of this body, then dissolve more subtle liquid, heat, solid, dissolve liquid. Liquid, because of that, dissolve.
Fire. Fire.
Fire, like that. No, not fire. Yes. Oh, like that. So then finally, clear light. Or in Guhi Samaja, Tongpashi Sati.
In Guhi Samaja Tantra, there is the mention of the experiences of four empties.
Four empties, different meaning. Four empty. According to Kala Chakra, another sort of different meaning of emptiness. And Madhyamika, one emptiness. And the Guhi Samanja, four emptiness. So these are, I said, different meaning.
Yes.
So I think problem in the past, Western Buddhist scholars, they heavily depend on dictionary. So when word come empty, then they thought all empty is same. Isn't it? That problem happened. New generation of, you see, Western Buddhist scholar is because of entirely different. Firstly, they speak Tibetan, and also they study together with Tibetan. So their knowledge is really reliable, like Professor Thurman. Really, very good. Now he also kept some bear. The other day in Dharamsala, one day, very cold, and I asked him whether you see this bear some help for protection. Warm. He says, very much. He better like that. Yes. Now I think I explain is something. Shvataya marve. Correct. 4:30 or 4:30? Okay. So now the 9th chapter in the 9th chapter. 다원나 와 그 디비전으로 가가 차 연구 알아봤다 난조 방향 로체기 고모고모 남기 너스니 자 다디 이니 컨디션다 가서 그렇게 다 민자와 컨디션 샤워를 룽르 때야 이메이나 소소소 룽 야래 배는 낭발 랑들 낭배 좀들 자셔 있네 지다마라는 게 공짜하기 도야래 다 너데버 숙도 이미 관심이 나 섬서버 있는 섬서버랑 공짜한 도야래 우모버 있는 우모버랑 공짜한 도야래 자다 도치를 때니 디디 가서 우리 그게 다들 너버도 디키할라나 디미두스는 도를 때나 그렇게 하면 누가 자 디네이즈는 다 리벌레 된 거예요. 리벌레 때니 좀더 강라 리베 타네 겐두 차체 누구도나 다디 에네 멤버스 좀더 강라 리베 시스템 잖아야 겐두 메딩이 시도나 다디 사르지 다 독신 좀더 처음이셔요. 자 디네인도 난조바야 로체기 고모고모 남기 너스니 그러다 직체 다야 난조바 모다라 냠뇽께 땡에 주면에 야 냠뇽 니미치를 뒤지를 냠뇽 용서기야 매버리 그 림베시는 냠뇽 공도 팔어야지 얘가 인도산에 공도 팔어주산에 오모 애니 냠뇽이야 고모고메 냠뇽기 쓰기는 용거리스 독스나다 랑교 좀
So then the text reads, And within the ranks of meditators, the lower in degrees of insight are confuted by the higher. So here, now the question is, now how to really distinguish as to which of the philosophical school is superior and the other inferior? So if you are to rank that on the basis of the sutras that they based on, then all of these philosophies, they have their own respective sutras. For example, for Bhashkas, they have their own sutras, sutras to based on, and likewise Chittamatras and Madhyamika school, they all have their respective sutras. So this is not the proper way of validating as to which is superior and the other is inferior. So now the only possibility is by on the basis of
the
rationality.
Superiors are acceptable.
Yes. Which one is acceptable and other not. So that cannot be done by judging whether one has a support of a sutra or not. Instead, it must be done on the basis of whether it is supported by a logical reasoning. So on that basis,
acceptable. So come to me about something again, to do the Korean, go Taiwan ring your right. That sure when it's changed, Sane, Tabakism, sure when it's changed, Kala, Genduyana, that day, and can I?
So if you are to validate or if you are to consider to the acceptability of these schools simply on the basis of faith, then we see that all these different traditions, all these different schools, they are deliberate.
Not only within Buddhism, but also the entire world religion. See, from the faith viewpoint, everyone, you see, brings immense benefit to concerned follower. So we must respect. We can't say, see, this wrong. But then another level, investigation. Then within Buddhism, Buddhist school thought, the Vibhashek, Sudantik, Chittamantra's viewpoint, and within Madhyamika, some Madhyamika sort of view. If we investigate, there is contradiction. So, from the Pranja side,
from the viewpoint of the analysis,
then you see some philosophical viewpoint unacceptable because there is contradiction. So that's Nagarjuna, and particularly Nagarjuna and Kasachuti, Buddhapalita, and also Aryandeva, and Buddhapalita, and Chandrakirti, and Shantideva also you see did that, analyze. So then even Buddha's own word, through analytical meditation, now this Buddha statement acceptable. This Buddha statement cannot accept, literally. Buddha taught that sort of as a teaching for certain people, which more suitable, that view. So like that. So,
so it is for this reason that the teachings, even the teachings of the Buddha can be classified into two. One which is provisionally, the provisionally acceptable, and the other which is definitive. Literally acceptable and the literally unacceptable.
So some text, Chitta Mantra school of thought, you see, consider the Kasota Nivete. Thank you, so.
So from some perspective, the teachings given that, which of course with the Chittamatras we point, they are considered as definitive. However, from the point of view of the Madhyamikas, even the teachings given for the Chittamatras, they are interpretable. They are not to be accepted literally. And now, so on the level of the analysis, now on the level of the analysis, we see that the higher schools or the understanding of the same concept, the higher schools have would supersede what the lower schools have. This is one thing. And then another way of interpreting the same stanza, which says that the lower degrees of insight are confuted by the higher. So that is in relation to one individual practitioner. With respect to one single individual practitioner, since that the practice or the spiritual realizations is not something that you can achieve within one day, so it needs time. So in time, you see that the practitioner evolves and the practitioner enhances one's spiritual realization. So as one's spiritual realization grows in its quality, then it supersedes the spiritual realization that the same person had earlier.
So that I think everybody can experience that. At the early stage, is certain things rather difficult to visualize or to think. And even you see the certain concept, you say, unless you think seriously, you see, you may not get the concept.
No, very clearly. Very clearly.
Very clearly. But then through familiarization and daily basis, think. Then, without much effort, it automatically. So, for example, the Karuna or Bodhisattva. At the beginning, difficult to get actual some kind of experience. Then, time passes because of the continuously effort. Then gradually the feeling becoming stronger. So the late experience of later part can
override the experiences that you had in earlier stages.
And the understanding also is similar. Perhaps Bodhisattva or Shunya. Now, for example, my own sort of case, when I was in Tibet, although I already have keen interest about Madhyamika philosophy, Madhyamika viewpoint, but then just to sort of say,
just there is admiration in this, that this is good.
Then my age at that time, I think around 20 up to 24, final examination, then come to India as a refugee, then continuously I study and meditation, analytical meditation in these points. Then my age around 30, begin to get some feeling about this Shunya, some feeling. Of course, still not yet sort of fully developed. But then, gradually, I think my age, perhaps around, I think, late 50s and 60s, the concept of Shunya is something living and very familiar. And occasionally, when some problems, I remember that, very helpful. So that immense help to get the feeling of nirvana, salvation. Not through text, but through understanding about Shunya. That brings the idea or conviction, possibility of cessation. Immense help.
Cessation of what?
Cessation of suffering, cessation of ignorance. The ignorance, the subtle level ignorance, the ultimate ignorance. Just the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom which understands Shunya. Just direct opposite that wisdom. That's the ultimate ignorance. Like that. So, and then Bodhisattva. To me, the understanding or some awareness about shunya, immense help to develop altruism. So when I received this Shantideva's text, I have sort of great admiration about altruism, but also I have the feeling, oh, that's very difficult, that kind of feeling. Then time passes. Eventually, now that infinite altruism we call Bodhisattva, now something quite close. As soon as I wake up in morning, immediately remember about altruism. And then some kind of pledge, rest of my day, you see, sort of carry according to that sort of spirit. That spirit. And that immense help. So now, for example, the last year, the later part of the year, almost I think 5-6 months, my program continuously, no 1 week rest, continuously, but no feeling of tiredness. So mainly, the sort of, mentally, my body, speech, mind, totally sort of dedicated well-being of sentient being, infinite sentient being. So then, every day, after the evening, I have the feeling, oh, I fulfill my body and speech. Body, of course, not labor, having other, but give smile. So people get at least for temporary sort of kind of joy. Then speech, talk, at least is some help. Then my motivation, totally dedicated well-being of other. So then, day pass, I feel fulfilled. So that really helps, you see, to keep freshness and purposeful life. So blood pressure, no problem of blood pressure, no problem of the stress. Like that. So that's my own experience. So you all, everyone, have the same potential. So if you make effort, you get that. So don't think, oh, Dalai Lama is something very special because reincarnation of generosity is nonsense, wrong. We are same human being. So have sort of conviction. We are same. Why not? If Dalai Lama get that kind of sort of other certain sort of mental peace, then why not we can? Right? That must be. I think that's for me. I think the good way to teach. If God remained there, then give us some kind of instruction. We just, as a creature, and look at. From Buddhist viewpoint, I'm Buddhist. For me, not good. But for millions of other people, concept of creator is immense benefit. Very good. So I always respect them. I always admire them. But as far as my own practice is concerned, Buddhist teaching is much more encouraging. I also have the Buddha seed. If I try, I become Buddha. So same level. What do you think? So we should, I think the concept of Buddha nature, Tathagata Shindaya, Sugata Shindaya, Tathagata Garva, I think, Tathagata Garva, Sugata Shindaya, I think 2 words. So these concepts, I think, immense benefit, particularly when those people who demoralize, discourage, and mental state hopelessness must think these things. And also think eons. Some tantric sort of teaching says within 3 years you can become Buddha. So that gives us false hope. Not good. Think, eons, eons, eons. Then real determination develop. No matter what the difficulties, what obstacles, it doesn't matter, 100 years. Then take next life. Go that way, eons, eons. That's really a source of inner strength, isn't it? And dedicate one's life for well-being of others, sincerely. Then, day passes, you get the feeling of fulfillment. So my favorite sort of prayer, so long space remain, so long sentient beings suffering remain, I will remain in order to serve. This Shantideva in the book, he mentioned that. Wonderful. That's that source of sort of strength. Isn't it? Marve, what do you think, Professor? What do you think?
I think it's excellent. We're going to try to be like you. It's hard to get up at 4 in the morning.
Karsa? Lifestyle is different, of course, different. But mental level, I think we all can be same practice. I think we can do. Next, then now I forget what is the main subject. Oh yes. Nurse. Therefore, Buddha himself, stated, "O my follower, should not accept my teaching out of devotion, out of faith, but rather through investigation and through experiment." So this is, I think, very scientific way, isn't it? I think. So around, I think, 25 years ago, when I developed or desire dialogue with modern scientists, my American friend, a Buddhist, so some gave me warning, science is killer of religion, so be careful, contact with scientists. Then I thought, oh, the Nalanda tradition, Sanskrit tradition, the investigation is more important than just relying on Buddha's own word. So no problem. So for me, many Tibetan, of course, always offer mandala. So I do not believe the Mount Meru, these things. Still, I'm Buddhist. I do not accept these sort of mandala, Mount Meru and some different these things. I do not believe that. Maybe some other planet, maybe, but at least on our planet, it does not exist. So some, for example, Abhidhamma Korsha, the Basuband, so I think, really, try to explain very detailed how many miles, but these are useless. And one time I joked, one great Tibetan scholar, the Basuband in Abhidhamma Kosha Karika, the size of moon and sun, except
except he mentioned that the difference in size between the sun and the moon is just half a yojana. Half a yojana is very small.
So then I jokingly told that he's a scholar. Perhaps the Basuband, his naked eye, try to look size of the moon and the sun. And he felt, sun little bigger than moon. So he described passing of the chest.
So then on the basis of this, so His Holiness jokingly shares this with other people that it is on this basis of his observation through his naked eyes of the size of the sun and moon, that he described the difference in size as just half a yojana instead of the reality.
So these are really nonsense now. There's no problem. These are nothing to do with teaching of Four Noble Truth. The teaching of Four Noble Truth is very, very realistic. Now, in order to know the later part of Two Truth, cessation, there now concept of shunyata is very, very important. So the first teaching, Buddha's Dharma Wheel, taught Four Noble Truth. In order to know the Four Noble Truth fully, the second Dharma Wheel, because of the Panchaparamita Sutra, very necessary. The Panchaparamita Sutra explains about shunyata, about subtle way of interdependency, Bodhisattva. Then third Dharma Wheel, Buddha stated about our nature of our mind. Then further explanation that in Guhi Samadha Tantra, because of the distinction, grosser level of mind, subtle mind. So study is very, very important. Just to pick up one text and read and fuller knowledge about that is not sufficient. We must read all these different sort of kasota text and study different sort of school of thought. Immense benefit. About the Pratitya Samuppada, we must know the concept or interpretation of Chitta Mantra. Then we will know, we get better knowledge about the Madhyamika's view. And within Madhyamika, Prasankika and the Sudantik, their debate. So when we study seriously about these debate, then you can get the deeper sort of understanding about the Prasankika view. So therefore, the Prasankika, the Chandakirti's Umatsiksel Khasa, Umatsiksel Mindi. Umatsiksel. What was Sanskrit word? Oh, that, you see, that text available in Tibetan translation, not available in Chinese. So, because not available in Chinese, so no translation in Japanese or Vietnamese like that, or Korean. So I sort of suggested some of my Chinese friend, as well as some Japanese. Eventually, and we already thinking or mentally some kind of vision, making plan, translation. The Sanskrit available, so Sanskrit, original Sanskrit text there. Then very good translation in Tibetan there. So much easier to translate into Chinese. I think English already there or not?
English in different pieces.
Different pieces, huh?
French, German, English.
So that text is very, very essential. Then that made a very clear distinction, Prasankika, or another word, I think the Vabhabhika's view about Madhyamika and Chandakirti's view, or Buddha Palita. Very clear. Unless we study that, maybe confusion like that. So it is, I think those ancient translators, Tibetan translators, are really great. And that all these things due to Shantarakshita from Nalanda. He personally, you see, invited to Tibet. Shantarakshita, great master of Madhyamika philosophy, and also great logician. All his writing You see, he always used logic.
Yes. Always used logic and reasoning to establish the point.
So we, as his student, I always proudly to state, we are holder of pure lineage of Nalanda tradition. So we very much emphasize the using logic. So therefore, when I give teaching to Chinese Buddhists, historically they are elder students of Buddha. We are much younger. The Buddhism reached Tibet 7th century, 8th century. And China, I think 3rd century, 3rd, 4th century, isn't it? 3rd, 4th century. So they are elder students of Buddha. So whenever I give some lecture on Buddhism to Chinese Buddhists, because they are elder, so I always express my sort of respect to them. Then meantime, I jokingly telling them, as far as knowledge is concerned, junior student not bad. Because the Acharya, the Shantideva and Kamalashila, particularly at the time of Kamalashila, there was debate. Chinese meditationer, Buddhist meditationer, and Kamalashila. The Kamalashila emphasis, study, wisdom is very essential. Analytical meditation is very essential. The Chinese meditationer emphasis, single-pointed meditation is enough, is more important. So some debate took place. Then finally, the Kamalashila win. So last, now that is law, because don't write simple. More than 1,000 years. More than 1,000 years, Tibetan tradition follow strictly Nalanda tradition, study, investigation. So that, I think, brought a new opportunity meeting with modern scientists. Almost equal way. As far as matter is concerned, external matter is concerned, their finding, their knowledge is marvelous. Although Buddhist sort of literature mentioned about particles and these things, but still we learn many useful things from modern scientists. And then inner science is concerned. They found very useful ideas, very useful knowledge, and also some kind of new technique to check, to examine our mind and emotion, and particularly how to tackle emotion. So you see, some kind of, I think the joint effort eventually, I think, was very helpful to bring completion, complete. Modern science mainly matter. The ancient Indian science mainly mind. So mind is there. So once these both together, then the scientific knowledge, then fuller external matters, internal world, I think very useful. So all these happen because of the great master of Nalanda institution. So therefore, I usually call myself as a son of India. Isn't it? Like that. And whenever I met South Indian, and I usually sit and mention, South Indian's brain is something very special. I think Nagarjuna and many of these scholars, I think most of them come from South India. Like that. So therefore, I think, then also I want to share with you, 2 years So I notice now Buddhism can be divided 3 parts. Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy or concept, like Paticca that's Buddhist philosophy and also concept Marve. Then Buddhist religion. So Buddhist religion is meant for Buddhist practitioner. But Buddhist science of mind, Buddhist concept is something universal. So academic subject. So I never make effort propagating Buddha Dharma. When I give lecture in a non-Buddhist country, I always stress you should keep your own traditional faith, mainly Judeo-Christian faith, and to some extent Islam. So it is much safer and better to keep that. Whereas like Tibetan and Mongolian, and also I think many Chinese, traditionally Buddhist, and Korean, and Japanese, and of course these Buddhist countries, like that, it is our traditional religion, so better to keep that. Oh, I have one sort of nice story. You know, in early 60s, when Tibetan refugee community freshly arrived refugee, very difficult. So many of them, there's no other way to earn but just simply road work. So very difficult, especially you see some of those some of these Tibetan who come from the western part of Tibet, they also brought with their family, including their children. So at that time, children suffer very much. Climate change and because of malnutrition, these things. So one Tibetan family, the husband, Tibetan official, lay official. Then the father, official, passed away. And mother, his wife, and I think 2 or 3 children remain. So very difficult. So then some Christian missionary, at that time, of course, many Christian organizations, you see, they provide food and milk and many things. So the early period, of course, besides the government of India should help, you see, the Christian organizations help, immense help, very helpful. So that family also received some help. So then, I think 63 or 4, around that period, she came to see me, and she told me her stories. Then she told me, Christian missionaries, you see, not only help them because of the other facility, but also, you see, take to school her children. So then he mentioned, so therefore, the Christian missionary is very kind to her. So for this life, she become Christian. Now next life, she will be Buddhist. So what is that? It's a clear sign of confusion, isn't it? So it is much better to keep one's own tradition. Then also, you see, one Polish, one lady, very old lady, firstly, she joined Theosophy in Madras. Then eventually, you see, since 56, we become very close friend. So later, she became Buddhist. But at the time of her the death, nearly death, in her mind, constantly, you see, occur the concept of creator, God. So that also signs of confusion, isn't it? So it is much safer to keep one's own tradition. So I never propagate Buddha Dharma in different country. But you see, as far as Buddhist science, in order to develop more compassionate mind, more compassionate person. I always was telling, as a secular ethics, then promotion of religious harmony, I always do. And recently, I was in Vancouver, and then finally, Quebec, Montreal. A serious discussion, how to introduce the compassionate ethic in modern education system. So there, when I was, actually they invite one organization invited me, that mainly at that time, they carry some teachers training. Many colleges, universities in Quebec area gathered, I think, few hundred teachers. They carry teachers training. Mainly, you see, without touching religion, how to introduce, how to teach children or a student about the importance of compassion, moral ethics. So like that. So these are, I think, from Buddhist science or Buddhist concept, you see, can make some contribution. That I do. Otherwise, I never started trying to propagate Buddha Dharma. Unlike Professor Thurman, these are exceptional. Now, how many years? Yes.
Almost 50 years.
50 years. So when we first came to Dharamsala, and in 60s,
64. 1964.
64, then he monk. Very, very thin and very tall monk, goes like that. And then eventually he became professor. Very good. I think because a professor in Columbia University, right? So these are exceptional. So individual, according to their mental disposition, Buddhism is most suitable. Buddhist way of approach is sort of most suitable. And then individual sort of freedom, isn't it? Like that. So that's the point. Buddhist science, Buddhist sort of philosophy, Buddhist religion. Then the two things can be universal and a part of academic subject. That's good, isn't it? Like that. Good? Good night. See you again tomorrow.